Hello, this is Ted from Dementia Talks. I'm here with Christy,
Hi.
and we're going to talk about an issue that was raised on the channel, on the YouTube channel, and in other places, and that's what do you do if your partner or loved one doesn't want to get diagnosed or get checked out to find out if they have dementia.
Yeah, they're in denial.
Yeah, they're in denial. Yep. Before I get too far, just want to remind you, new book is out on Amazon in both Kindle and in hardback or paperback. It's in a lot. It's in a larger format, so it's easy to read. Okay, so I'm going to follow kind of the outline that that the Alzheimer's Association has provided from the UK. There is an article up on Dementia Talks and Watering Light that I've expanded further on that, kind of give 10 more things that you can look at. But we'll stick with theirs. 8's a good number, and kind of open that up. So the first thing they talk about is have conversations without conflict. They put in parentheses, dementia can be the elephant in the room with everybody afraid to talk about it. So what's your thoughts on?
Well, we surely don't have a problem talking about it. We are advocates and spokespeople to get the word out that dementia is real and people get it and you can live with it just positively, and just like cancer,
Right.
just like all the other things that people need to talk about and be aware of, whether it's depression, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have any trouble talking about it.
No, and that's certainly been true for us. I think that what would you be so say you got family and whatever, and a certain one of the people potentially is showing signs of dementia. How would you, as a family?
As a family, okay, that's a good one. Well, first off, you can relate to what they may be doing to someone that you know. Say, oh, gosh, a friend that was diagnosed with dementia 2 years ago started out the same way. It's just ironic,
Yep.
isn't it? Now, I don't know if you have that or not, but that's how he started out.
Right.
And then let it drop.
Right.
And it might be, and I know you're going to disagree with me here, going behind the person's back. But there is a certain amount of support when not trick them into, but you can make hypothetical situations sound real and lead them. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, but you can at least get them to the watering hole.
Right.
And in the meantime, give examples of how diagnosis can help.
Yeah. You can certainly read books like I'm Still Alice, or Still Alice.
Still Alice.
And or there's new information from on Robin Williams with there's a video there about him and what have you. He was
Chicken Soup for the Soul. Those are old books, been around for a long time, but I had a friend send one to me, and they're little short excerpts of heartwarming situations with people with dementia. Rather humorous as well, because you can laugh.
And that's why I don't disagree with you, but I would put what they put as number 2 ahead of number 1, which is find the facts.
Okay.
Right. So far too often, when you say just to someone that they have dementia, or you think that they might have the signs of dementia, their mind might be, well, that's only for very old people in nursing homes or what have you, right? where actually, quite frankly, a lot of those people are misdiagnosed anyway. They have aging. But dementia, by its nature, represents the damage to the brain, whether it's Alzheimer's or Lewy body or vascular or frontal, right? They all frontal lobe, they all have some element of damage to the brain. It's not something that is about aging and losing your mind or capacity, right? That's not what it is. Unfortunately, in years gone by, that's the way they looked at it, and so we're fighting a moral or a norm that, quite frankly, is like pushing a rock up a hill, right? To get people to understand what dementia really is, even doctors, for that matter. We had a doctor who who was a neurologist who saw the notes afterwards, and he says, well, he doesn't look demented, and that's not even how dementia works, right? It's
He said he didn't
appeared
appear demented.
Yeah.
But I heard what he was giving you credit for being as on top of it as you are.
But the word demented,
It's a clinical
carries
term.
carries
It's a clinical term.
it carries with it connotations.
I know, but
So that's why it's important to understand the facts, right? So understand what the various types of dementia are, how it's diagnosed, what the steps are to get to a diagnosis, etc. And then understanding what, once you have a diagnosis, how they can get set up a treatment plan for you from a medication point of view to help you be better off each day, even though your dementia may be progressing.
okay.
So that's why I looked at number 2 as I like to work from an understanding point of view, and if you can get the person to an understanding point of view, then you can make much more of a formed versus emotional decision.
That's true. But if it's gone undiagnosed for a long time, they may not be capable of the understanding.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, and it's so hard. We've said on many occasions that I didn't see you had a problem, but you knew you did.
Right. It is very subtle.
But I didn't witness it. He was still,
Right.
So, okay.
Yeah. Getting the facts is more than just facts online or what have you. It is about also understanding how it works and that kind of stuff. And if you can connect with other people who have dementia, you might get a more personal understanding of it, that kind of
Right.
stuff. There are
Right.
groups and that kind of stuff and there's certainly the Alzheimer's Association and what have you, and other organizations that you can reach out and talk to or meet with. So that gets to number 3, which is, getting help is, I think, sometimes the hardest part.
Yeah.
Because
It
it's
depends
not,
on where you live.
yeah,
It's the demographics. It's your financial situation. So many things play into it.
right,
Whether both people are still working. When we got the diagnosis, I was retired. I was able to follow him along, but if I was still working, I wouldn't have been able to attend a lot of the appointments. You still have family. I mean, I'm in a group where some people are still raising children, and they
Right.
have a loved one that is suffering from dementia, and they're trying to juggle a whole bunch of stuff.
That brings up a point about working. I mean, there'll be 5 million people this year alone that are going to be diagnosed with dementia that are still working. They're still under a corporate or some type of insurance plan. In other words, instead of Medicaid or Medicare or Medicare, where they're not retired, they're not 65 or older. They're in the working workforce. And it's 5.5 million people last year were diagnosed while in the workforce. That's a big number,
It is.
right? And it impacts a lot of people, even though they're already working.
Yeah.
They're still working.
And it doesn't just impact those people. It impacts spouses, caregivers, children, grandchildren, in so many ways.
Yeah.
It's just not that person with dementia that they.
Yeah. Their number 3 is then get help, right?
And that's that's very, very hard to do. And, you say the clinics, and I brought up clinics are great places that all the doctors talk together. Your neurologist, your pain doctor, all the doctors talk together and treat you, not just treat the symptoms, but treat the person. But if you don't live near Cleveland Clinic or Mayo or Scripps or whatever, there's lots of teaching hospitals.
Right.
That
Texas A&M, we
right.
work with them. Yeah.
And so that our one doctor went from Cleveland to research at U of M, University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. And so, if you live near a IU, Bloomington,
University Medical Center, yeah.
yeah, that's another way to get some treatment, and even maybe get part of a research, get into research.
Right, there's a chance to actually also become part of a group.
Yeah.
Right. So
right.
My point on the prior one was don't feel like you're alone. This is not. First off, it's not. You shouldn't be. You're not alone with you and your caregiver. Your caregiver also becomes partly your advocate, right? Mm-hmm. Because whether you know it or not, you may be dropping some of the facts, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so you need that advocate there to help explain to the doctors when things started happening, what have you. Mm-hmm. And they will, I guarantee you, when you get really into the getting to the diagnosis, they will dig into all the times that this happened and that happened and when did this happen and when did that happen. And you need that advocate. If you don't get confused by that,
absolutely.
If you don't get confused by that, you don't have dementia.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
And doctors, we all know, are on a time schedule.
Right.
So if you don't respond, and how many of you feel pressured or on a clock when you go to see the doctor? I think most of us do. But when you've got dementia, you can't be on the clock. Because it takes you longer to process the questions that they give you. I love the one question. I'll do it. They always ask when we go into the nurse that takes the information and your meds and stuff. They ask you several questions, and one of them is, "Do you feel safe in your home?" And I know that's directed at me in case he feels abused. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Oh, yes, I feel safe in my home." And I look at him and I say, "Good answer." And the nurse just and then she realizes we were,
well, that kind of leads us into number 4, which is work together, right? Mm-hmm. So getting to a diagnosis is about working together, right? It is not about us versus them or you becoming the prosecutor to say, look, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do that, right? And now the person feels like you're prosecuting them or whatever in like a trial. You're in it together.
Mm-hmm. And that's hard to do. But
I think if you can't do that, quite frankly, I think you probably do need some counseling, right? Because that is like the foundation. Mm-hmm. Of working a relationship where the caregiver and the patient, the person potentially with dementia, move forward together.
Right.
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 If you can't do that, first off, you're not going to have a good caregiver and relationship,
Right.
right? It is so much the foundation. Like, I can't say it any other way. The next one is to be positive,
Yeah.
right? Some of our friends are just remarkable about how positive I am, but I've chosen to be that way.
It's a choice.
And I will admit that in the beginning it was hard, but
Yes. It was scary. And in the beginning, and we touched on this on the clip that we had to throw away, but I didn't want to leave him because he was very depressed. And I knew suicide might be an option. And so there was a period of time in the beginning that I didn't leave him alone. And one time I did leave him alone, and it was fine. But I'm saying you're not always going to have to feel that way.
right, clinical depression can be very much a part of dementia, and that's important to understand, right, for people.
Right.
That what you see on the outside is only a small fraction of what's going on the inside, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, when you don't trust your thinking, or you look at your life and say, I don't want it to be this way, or I don't want it to end this way, that's when clinical depression starts raising its ugly head, and it's dangerous, right? And so not only to get, I think that you seized on it right away. I was honest about where I was,
Right.
and then I got the medical help that I needed, but then I chose each day to be positive. The funny part is I did it so many days that it just become a habit. It's just the
Yeah,
way I am.
it's remarkable.
It's my
It really
personality now.
is.
So
It's just
it's easy to say
remarkable.
be positive. I can tell you that it's a journey, not just something that you do once.
Right,
Right.
yeah.
And that
And
gets it.
I feel very blessed because of that. It makes our relationship wonderful.
The next item that they bring up is don't force it. Right. So if you're in, I think the simplest example would be when she would say, did you do this, or do you remember this, or whatever, and I would go, I don't even. It wasn't that I forgot it. It's that I didn't even remember any of the conversation, any of the thing happened. It was a total blank, right? And so, you know, it's important then for the caregiver to give space. You give me space to come around to find the memory, right? And we love Teepa Snow, and she says you got to open that file drawer, and it may take a while to get to that file drawer, right? Yeah. And so it's not like it total blank. But it's the time frame to get to it is long, right? Yes. And so I got to find that file to open it to remember it. But if you as a caregiver are looking for a response to that, it might not happen while you're what you want, right?
Right, right. And also sometimes you can prompt. I do a lot of prompting. I know they say you're not supposed to prompt, but sometimes you just need to prompt. You know, I hope it doesn't I don't think it makes you feel bad. It's hard to prompt when you're in a group.
Yeah.
But everybody's grateful that you prompt.
One of the things that people may not understand about dementia, it also impacts your ability to speak, right? And for me, you would never know it because I love to talk, but I can get to a point where I can't get a word out, and it'll drive me nuts trying to get to that word, right? And So prompting doesn't hurt me, it helps me because it releases me to not be in this memory trap of trying to remember what that word was. Because I'll
Right.
go into I'll keep going after it until the middle of the night, and I won't go to sleep until I come up with it. And I'd rather have the prompt
Right.
and move on than not have it. Number 7 is be kind to yourself. And this is really not just for the person who has dementia. This is really all for the caregiver, right? So you are not in it alone. And the care, they're getting in a group of people that are caregivers is important, as well as it is to get in a group, for me to get in a group of people who all have dementia, early onset dementia.
And you're also lucky to be in a group of coffee guys
Oh, yes.
that do not have dementia. At least they don't think they do, which is fine. I don't mean that they do, but they all just humor each other, and they call you out if you make a mistake. You know, they're not shy with you, and they're very kind, and they watch out for you.
Yeah.
And that is probably more important than
Having friends, having a group of friends to help you through this process and be kind to you about it is
and not just
so
family.
important. No. Actually, sometimes better to not to be family.
Right.
So, friends or family that you've brought in. So, so last to keep on our time is practical planning, and they're talking there about the aspects of understanding from a practical point of view. The reason for getting the diagnosis is so that you can do the planning of what to do, right? So if you put off certain things, it's going to impact yourself and your family financially. It's going to impact how people deal with it. So there is a practical planning point of view that is not for me. It's for others, right? It's for the rest, for you, for my family. That's important. And so some of the reason you can explain for the person that, or that reason for explain to the person is the reason to go to make sure and get a diagnosis if it's there. Remember that dementia is always a form of brain damage. There's something physically being damaged. So remember that it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse, right? And so now, you've got an opportunity to do some practical planning for your spouse, for your loved ones, your family, what have you. And I think that's the higher road. When I knew the dementia was on on my radar, my thought wasn't about me. My thoughts were, okay, I don't want her being saddled with me with no memory, what have you. I mean, I've seen all the movies and what have you. I don't want her to be carrying in a notebook to remind me who I am every day, right? That's the easy part. There's biological changes that come along with dementia as well. That's the part I'm more worried about.
Right, yeah.
Right. So that to me is the crown on the whole thing. Is the reason for it is not for me, but for my loved ones.
Yeah. And, it means you look ahead differently. Where do we want to finish out our life together? Do we need we don't need 2 cars. We still have 2 cars because one drives in the snow, one gets good gas mileage. But we don't need those. And other situations, you look around, he's shuffling, so you might want to move rugs and find places that are of comfort
Yeah, I have trouble with balance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And planning, find my friends on my phone. When he goes out and takes the dog for a walk, do you have your phone? So I can always check to see where he is. And how nice, because otherwise he was gone this morning longer.
Right.
And I was just able, I knew that he was in the lobby. And so I didn't have to call and say, "Where are you?"
Right.
I'm worried. And that's happened more than once. He
Oh, yeah.
stops and talks to a neighbor or ends up
Right.
at somebody's house.
Yeah, and wandering is a real part of
Yeah.
dementia, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
people do wander.
So those are, just the fact, and he's got planning. He's
Oh,
got
yeah.
a wristband that gives my information on it if he's
This
lost.
is by road ID. It has both her information, how to contact her, and it also has my medical alert on it. So if I'm
Right.
in an accident or whatever, not only do they have the medical alert, but they have, and these are put out by road ID. So they're you can
There's
go
a
online.
lot of
There's a lot of
places that
places,
do.
whatever, but this from road ID. Patsy also has it on her.
Yeah.
So yeah. But
Yeah.
those are practical things that need to be done,
Right. And they need to be discussed, and you could be paranoid. Say, "Oh, you're just trying to keep track of me. You're just trying to keep," well, yeah, I am. You don't trust me. No, I trust you.
Yeah.
But, he can think of it being different.
Yeah.
He's not
Yeah, I don't.
confrontational, which is nice.
So again, this is come up because this is a new request that's come up on the YouTube channel and on podcast. It's going to be a two-parter, and so we hope we've covered a lot here. There's more to come in the second part, and we
Even
hope.
a joke at the end.
Okay, you have to say watch part 2 then.
Watch part 2.
All right, everybody. We really thank you for joining us today, and we want you to have a very positive day. Goodbye.